How Minneapolis addressed it is they had a board, and it was bigger and had politicians on it. I intentionally kept the politicians out of this mix. This is truly energy experts and utility experts sitting down to try and achieve something. And there was to be a representative from the neighborhood network here, the president, Marilyn Bain. There was an accident on the way with someone, so she could not be here. But there is, and how Minneapolis addressed it is they had their team and their board working on the nitty-gritty, and then they had what they called community advisors, which is essentially the public and stakeholders, environmental groups, advocates. And so we'll work that out too as we address our energy vision and our action plan. We'll have a whole public segment that we can work into that. But I truly, I look forward to it, and I thank in advance Mr. Michael and as well Mr. Howe, who do this for a living, and they're going to lend us their expertise and really take on some hard issues. And I really look forward to some outcomes, and I have insisted upon a promise and a commitment from the top at the utility that this is not a show. This is really rolling up your sleeves and taking a look at how we can create something better for the Santa Fe area, but that would be a model. I mean, I think PNM is well aware that they need to move off of coal, and I think what we could achieve here can really have some real positive effects for the rest of the state of New Mexico. So thanks for coming out.
Question?
Sure. I'm not the expert, but I'll try.
I'm just wondering, how is the Climate Summit Task Force involved in this? Are they going to have any input? And John Alejandro and the people that have been really dealing with the nitty-gritty of some of these issues?
John Alejandro is mentioned as the city's liaison as we develop the CPAP, Climate Protection Action Plan and Energy Vision. I'm sure that they will involve that committee or task force in helping to craft that vision and guideline, and those are the guiding documents for the negotiation of the Memorandum of Understanding.
My question is related to that, and that is, how is this different than the Mayor's Climate Action Task Force, and why not collaborate with that group versus two separate groups?
It's not a separate group. This is actually sitting down, and again, there's been some real clear, like, who should we have at the table for this short, I mentioned, I didn't make it like Minneapolis where it was a large board where, this is a very focused effort of experts. And, the task force, again, is made up of wonderful people with lots of input, and they can help us craft those guidelines that will be generating, hopefully, the outcomes that we will get by sitting down with the utility. But I think it would be very cumbersome to have a decision by committee. I think it's very important to have this collaboration team be very narrow and focused with expertise, and that's really the way we're going to get the utility to sit down at the table with us.
I'll piggyback on the word you used, income.
Outcome.
I know, but when you initially said income, what do you envision in terms of franchise agreements?
Again, we have a franchise agreement currently with New Mexico Gas Company. We don't have one with PNM. Right now, the only thing the franchise agreement really addresses is right-of-way use. We could expand that possibility, so it's on the table. This isn't something that necessarily PNM has a great interest in. They've already got what they want. And so the city, again, this has to be a very finessed and fine, focused intention. And that's what we'll get. So we will have plenty of input from everybody this is a community that cares about our environment, and particularly is well aware of what's happening with regard to climate change and global warming. And so there's plenty of, I can say that I've probably sponsored a dozen resolutions, sometimes 3 a year, saying that, we want Congress to do this, we want, our community to have these outcomes, but we've never really sat down and focused and said, well, how do we get there? And so that's really, and the one opportunity, so the only opportunities we've had to date are to go and intervene at the PRC, which we know how limited our effect has been there, at the legislature the same. We've never sat down with our utilities and told them why we're such an unhappy customer.
You've mentioned some of your co-sponsors. In fact, 2 of them are here. Do you have the mayor's support?
You know, the mayor's been out of town, so I've yet to broach this with him. And I had to be very careful of rolling quorums, so I did my best to not go beyond my 5. And, you know, I got to sit down in person. It's been introduced as of Monday, so I felt I could talk to individual councilors one by one, but it's taken this far. I only got, you know, we're just still writing the resolution.
Is this supposed to work in tandem with what Peter Ives is putting together?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I'm uncertain of what Councilor Ives is pursuing in terms of, I've read some things in the paper, but I've yet to really see anything in committee, so you'd have
And
to.
you said that the idea came from the top. So did P&M approach you?
No, this came from Minneapolis. I approached the P&M and said, what are the chances we would actually get somewhere? Would you really send us somebody that can speak for the utility? You know, we don't want just, because I've done this, I've sat down with them around community solar. I got, oh, we need another market study, and I got a lot of sort of, you know, we'd like to just keep doing the blue sky approach. And I just think this is a more sincere effort than I've ever seen come out of the utilities, and I'm hopeful.
Is it, when did you meet with P&M to talk?
I've been meeting with their different individuals, primarily over the phone and through emails, trying to, you know, suss out whether something like this could work here. Because I see it as a successful attempt right now in Minneapolis. And I hope that we could follow that model.
Who did you speak to at P&M?
I have spoken with Ray, and he's our legislative liaison, but we have run it up the chain through to the CEO, and we've got a commitment now from Ron Darnell, who's the senior vice president. And again, I'm not trying to do this on my own. I'm not trying to go cowboy and go meet with them and say, hey, what can I get from you? I am trying to make this be a very public process where but I wanted to know that they had a commitment and a stake in the game, and I feel they do. You know, I hope they prove me right.
Can you say what the commitment from P&M is exactly?
Is to actually come to the table with the people that can speak for the company and really try and achieve something, to really try and set up a timeline of how we would achieve that, and try and I mean, really correct what I think they think we are very unhappy and want to go it on our own. I can't promise them, you know, I can't promise outcomes, but I can promise that it feels very sincere to me that they are willing to dialogue and that we are going to take real steps to try and achieve some of the laudable goals we've spelled out in resolution after resolution here at the council level.
So, the way P&M is structured, they have 4 senior vice presidents that report directly to the CEO. Ron Darnell is one of those. So one of the things that Councilor Boucher insisted on was that someone appear here to talk with us, that if they represent something, there's a good chance that that'll fly within the company. And Mr. Darnell's at that level of management where there's a good deal of confidence that his representations will carry forward and be able to be commitments to the company.
Well, and I took it a little step further. You know, I said, look, my experience is P&M sends about 20 attorneys to any meeting, and you know, usually the first word out of their mouths is no, we can't do that for this reason. So it's my understanding, and you'll have to talk directly to the representatives for P&M, that the CEO has set them all down, those attorneys, and said, you know, I'm in, and who is in, you know, and kind of let them know that this is, they're going to take this risk. You know, it is a risk for them, you know, and so, I mean, they could come out worse out of this if it, you know, and I said, if this is just a PR attempt, then I'm not interested, but if it is, and you don't deliver some kind of concrete goals, you'll be worse off than when you started this dialogue. So let's make it real and let's do it.
You pointed to Minneapolis, but have you also been studying other municipalities like Boulder?
Yeah, I'm taking a look. I keep an eye. I looked at Cruces. I mean, that's partly why I'm interested in going this route, at least at this point, because, you know, I mean, in Cruces, it's El Paso Electric, you know, I mean, they ended up settling and getting nowhere, you know, really kind of step backwards. In Boulder, they're on their second attempt. I've seen the wonderful video. It makes me a true believer. I'm so sure. And then, you know, but we have, it's important, but again, it's always kind of a battle. I mean, you have to have a willing seller, right? Even if you're gonna buy a house, you gotta have, and you know, we at this point don't. And, you know, unless we plan on a real protracted legal battle, I'd like to see what we can get first, you know, out of this process. And to be honest, you know, I have been a skeptic, you know, and a critic, and they know that over the years. But I am truly willing to see this process through in hopes that, you know, and I'm not trying to be involved in it. I need expertise and people that have taken on the utilities before to really, you know, set out an agenda. And, you know, it's going to be in concert with the council. We'll approve and we'll set those guiding documents forward in a public way. And then we'll truly try and achieve some actual concrete goals. And I'm hopeful that it will be a model that others can follow.
When does this start? When are you gonna...
I've introduced it Monday. The draft keeps kind of growing, so tonight's the official real dropping in of this version of the working draft. It will go to some committees. But as you know, I spelled very specifically that I needed a very focused team of experts. They're built in here. P&M's even naming theirs. The only one that still has to get back to us is the gas company. And then the 6 days clock will tick after it's gone through the committee process to create, and that I'm sure will be with the Climate Action Task Force and any other group that staff wants to bring in. But I have involved both our energy team, our collaborative team on that same, so that they're there from the start, and so that when they're in the negotiations to create the MOU, they'll have understanding of where things came from.